man. You know I was gonna come back, and you know I was gonna talk about these three subjects right here. If you don't want me to sound off on wrestling, get up out of here. If you don't want to sound off on good basketball conversation, go ahead, get up out of here. And if you're gonna get in your feelings, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and log off right now, because this definitely ain't gonna be the place for you. Okay? Take your feelings, put them in the trunk of your car, put them in the garbage disposal, put them in the trash can, put them in the recycle bin, whatever. I don't care where you put them, just do not bring your feelings in here today. Don't bring them in here today. Do not bring them in here today. Now, Sid Vicious, aka Sid Steel, Sid Cyclops, Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, Sid Eudy, his real name. RIP to Sid Justice, man. I wanted to wait to do this video. First and foremost, I do want to give a shout out to the brothers that talked about this first. Without further ado, let me give a shout out to the political and sports channel of LB. Okay, definitely go sub to his channel, LDBC brother, one of the pillars in the LDBC. Good dude, and definitely knows his shit, and not gonna take no shit either. All right. Also want to give a shout out to Too Raw for TV. He talked about it too. Definitely was able to give expound on what he was about to. All right. One of the pillars and one of the HNIC of this LDBC community as well. And a big, both of them are big wrestling fans, because when I chopped it up, when I chopped it up with LB a while back, some time ago, we would always talk about various things. That's one of the things I haven't been able to get with LB as much on his channel and stuff, but when I would conversate with LB, one of the things I appreciate with LB and Too Raw too, both of those brothers, is that they don't just talk about sports, man. And those guys, I like picking their brain, because they talk about a whole different dimension of dialogue. That's what really separates the cream of the crop when you talk to different individuals. It's not just dummy down talking about, closed-minded shit, okay? So they're able to talk about wrestling. They're able to talk about music. They're able to talk about politics. They're able to talk about comedian comedy. They're able to talk about acting. They're able to talk about what's going on in society. They're able to talk about the military. Able to talk about everything. We can talk about the NBA. We can talk about the NFL. Talk about the MLB. You got to diversify your conversation, okay? And that's why a lot of people wonder why I give them guys a shout out. He showed me love on my channel before. You know what I'm saying? But LB, Too Raw, and then of course Ticket TV, he was able to talk about it too. He mentioned Sid Vicious briefly in his live. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. All right, with all that being said, what's up with it, Chad? I see you in here, man. With all that being said, okay, I got Sid Vicious in my top 3. Okay, I got him in my top 3. And I liked him more as a villain, okay? Now, there was a time period when the WCW and the WW, it used to be the WWF. Okay, a lot of people don't know that, but it was the WWF. Because it truly was a federation. It was entertainment, and like they changed the name WWE and all that other stuff. But guys really did go hard. Okay, now Sid Vicious, I had the pleasure of seeing him early when he was, I think he was Sid Steele, if I'm not mistaken. He was Sid Steele at one point. When he was climbing up in the ranks. This was like in the 80s, going into the early 90s. There was a wrestling federation called NWA. They really wrestled hardcore back then. Okay, a lot of people don't really realize that, but they really wrestled hardcore back then. That's when I first saw Sid. Okay, then later on he came into, he was going back and forth between both. Okay, he started off in the WW, what we know now as the WWE. Started off in the WWF. You know what I'm saying? Came in as Sid Justice. Then he was often playing the heel. I remember him in the Survivor Series, SummerSlams. But the one that I remember him the most in was, of course, WrestleMania 8. I'm ashamed to say, man, you know what I'm saying? I wanted Hogan to get him or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm kind of ashamed to say that now. But I like Sid Vicious, though. I Sid Justice. Yeah, listen. Wrestling was much different back then than it is now. The guys back then, they didn't talk. One of the things I liked about Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, was, man, he would come out, like he would just come out, how Tyson comes out with the shirt off and all that other stuff, just straight up, none of the antics or anything like that. He would just come out, you know what I'm saying, man, because the guy realized, man, dude was 6'10", man. He was like 6'10". He was just as tall as Undertaker and all these other guys. You know what I'm saying? I think he was about 6'9", 6'10", something like that. I never seen him in person. I saw Undertaker in person. So that's why I could say, these guys were about the same height or whatever. But he would come out, you know what I'm saying, with sweat, and he would spit his sweat everywhere, like a combination of water and sweat when he would come out of there, man. And he played the villain role so good, man. You know what I'm saying? He played the villain role so good, and that's what I appreciated about Sid Justice. Sid Justice, Sid Vicious. I know that as the same. Now this is another thing. This is another thing that a lot of people don't understand, right? He was also a member of the Four Horsemen later on. Okay, of course you had Ric Flair, you had Tully Blanchard, you had Arn Anderson and his brother, the other Anderson. He died and everything. You know what I'm saying, with his racist ass. I know a lot of people say that Ric Flair fell in that category too and all that other stuff, but they had many members in the Four Horsemen that were replaced, okay? But Sid Vicious happened to be one of them. Lex Luger was a part of the Four Horsemen at one time. Sting was. Double J Jeff Jarrett. Paul Roma. They had a few guys. They were just trying to, run through guys and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because of, scripts and injuries and stuff like that. You know what I felt like he was one of the best replacements having Sid Vicious. And see, at that time, man, I didn't know, the racial type of stuff that was really going on. Because as a kid, man, you you just like fascinated with the wrestlers, you know what I'm saying, jumping off the top ropes, all that other stuff and stuff like that until you really get some guys that really school you on really what's going on and stuff like that. But I felt like he should have beat Undertaker, and I think it was WrestleMania 13, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, and that was one, I think, because what's his name? Tura had brought to my remembrance back then. I think besides that one, that most watched WrestleMania, which WrestleMania 8, the other WrestleMania where they had I can't remember which one that was. I think that was the year before that. I think it was WrestleMania 7, if I'm not mistaken. That was a highly publicized WrestleMania 2 because of the realness that took place. Remember, you had Desert Storm and Desert Shield, Sergeant Slaughter, those guys in there, and everybody really took that really serious. It was America versus Iraq and Saudi Arabia and all that other stuff, you know what I'm saying? So that was a real thing, and a lot of people really played into it. Everybody thought it was real because that's what was going on during that time. That's what was taking place during that time. But anyway, to get back to Sid Justice, I got him in my top three. Okay, as far as wrestlers is concerned. Okay. Now, for those of y'all that are, wondering who my top wrestlers are, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Hey, come to think of it, yeah, he got death threats, and it's crazy. Man, he wasn't even. He wasn't even Middle East. That's what's crazy. That's what's crazy. He wasn't even from the Middle East, man. But my top wrestlers are Ultimate Warrior. Okay, reason why I got Ultimate Warrior at number one specifically is because I've never seen anybody come and shoulder press Sid Vicious is in my big man category, top five. I don't know them in any way, man. It's like, little man, big man, it don't even matter. You know what I'm saying? But I got Hogan like that, man. All right, I got him as my number one. I've never seen nobody come in, run into the ring like he did. He didn't have nothing special. He just ran to that motherfucker, got up in the ring and took care of you and took care of his business, and that was it. He took your ass out of there. You know what I'm saying? And we all know, the situation because he absolutely could not stand Hulk Hogan in real life. You know what I'm saying? He actually absolutely could not stand him. All right. Sid Justice. Now, I know a lot of people might not think that I got Sid Justice, but I really did have Sid Justice in there because he was, he played the, the bad guy so good. A lot of people don't know this. Ultimate Warrior was a heel too. You know what I'm saying? They didn't like the fact that Ultimate Warrior, how he did Hulk Hogan. Talking about, he was an American hero and all this other bullshit. But he really won't. Now, okay, Sid Vicious. I got him in there. And my next one is going to really surprise a lot of people. Right. Well, I mean, he had the right to, to play, to do the bodyguard. But yeah, my next one is Undertaker, man, and I had the pleasure of seeing Undertaker in person. It was at a Whataburger in Texas. I never will forget that, man. And him. I think I want to say him and Chris Birdman Anderson are from the same area, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? I'm not too sure about that. It was once said that they were from the same area. Birdman that played for Miami, played for Denver, all that, was in the NBA or whatever, because he's from Texas. But Birdman. But yeah, those are my top three. Okay. Now everybody else, they come after that. Um, Back then I was kind of fascinated with Hulk Hogan, but I got to the point where I wanted to see somebody beat Hogan, and Ultimate Warrior came in and totally destructed him. I felt like Sid Vicious should have got a chance to do that, but we all know that Vince McMahon was not going to let that happen. We know that he wasn't going to let that shit happen. But yeah, man, I think he had been struggling, with health issues for a while. Um, there was that injury that did take place. It was just as gruesome as as the Owen Hart situation, and unfortunately, Owen Hart ended up losing his life, and you can understand why they don't show it. They had it. It was a long time ago. They had it floating in some places where it was hard to find what happened. The death of Owen Hart. But everywhere you go now, it's like they got due to the graphic nature and stuff like that, they won't be able to show it and all this other stuff. But in the beginning, they were actually showing it. Yeah, he did. He definitely did, man. Like you, what's his name? Dude that died, Undertaker, Paul Bearer. Like he needed somebody like that. He needed somebody like that. But they were so big on, like, back then. They were so big on more of the heroes. They pushed the heroes so much, like in terms of the bravado of the heroes. It was like, you know what I'm saying, like the villains. I felt like there was a shift. Like, okay, like Ted, like look at it like this, right? When the heroes started, like, they looked at the Bulls, like the Michael Jordan Bulls and stuff. They looked at them as the heroes. So what was going in that wave? It was the heroes. Okay, like in the '80s with the Bad Boy Pistons and stuff like that, what was popularized? It was the villain. So in like the '80s and stuff like that. So you had Karate Kid, and you had Karate Kid versus Cobra Kai, that sort of thing. Well, Cobra Kai, at one point people were like, okay, yeah, we want to go with the villain. You know what I'm saying? That sort of thing. The villain would be one time the villain would be good. Next couple of years, then the hero would be good. And I felt like it was always okay. Hulk Hogan was always seen as the hero and stuff like that. But then when Hulk Hogan had turned bad, you'll be surprised. A lot of people really took that serious, man. They really took that serious. They like it was kind of like they knew Hulk Hogan or some shit. And they were like, oh man, you turned on us and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But you got to realize, man, that's what was being pushed. You know what I'm saying? Even a lot of people don't realize this. The Rock at one point was a villain. Steve Austin was a villain. That's what I'm saying. If you could do both, that makes you so much powerful in both acting, in anything, acting, rapping, entertainment, whatever. If you can play the villain just as good as you play the hero, that makes your versatility so much greater. That's one of the reasons why I like Samuel L. Jackson, man. Because Samuel L. Jackson, he could play, man, Samuel L. Jackson could play the villain and the hero and be a combination of both. If you look at Samuel L.'s characters, right? Like for instance, if you look at Coach Carter, right? Yeah, he was seen as a hero, but a lot of people wanted to look at him as a villain, so to speak, because he had to come in and he had to reconstruct that whole team, and he wasn't very liked in the beginning, but he had his players buy in. I don't know if people remember the movie 187. He was looked at as a hero, but when he was going I hate to get graphic, but when he did what he did to the students, cutting them, the fingers off and all that other stuff, and getting rid of the students and stuff like that, it was like the lady, the other substitute teacher and stuff like that, or the other teacher that was a part of the faculty, at first she looked at him as a hero and stuff like that because of, he ended up, he got stabbed by one of the students, but he survived and stuff. And he was like, well, in order for you to survive and stuff, you got to be just as vicious as them. And so when she found out that Samuel L. was doing that too, she looked at him as a villain and a monster, as well as a hero. So he was doing a combination of both, and that's what Samuel L. was so great at. Right. He was, yeah. The Rock was hilarious, good or bad, but he really was about his shit. It's the same thing, with The Rock or whatever. But more often than none, you always see The Rock as a hero. It's just like in Hobbs and Shaw or whatever, which I don't think it's enough credit. By the way, Hobbs and Shaw, but a lot of people don't like how the Fast and Furious, after Paul, what's his name, died. They didn't like the way that the Fast and Furious was going. They felt like it was too much action or whatever. These people need to come on, man. Oh, what are you doing? Now, yeah, man. So RIP to Sid Vicious. Now, a lot of people are gonna trip out when I say this. Just like football, wrestling, it's a blessing if you were a professional wrestler and you make it past the age of 60. That's how brutal the sport is. Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah, definitely did. Yeah, Vader. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the wrestler, I want to say the wrestler that Turod was talking about, where they did that little thing, running through a brick wall and stuff like that. Now, he had mentioned Tugboat, but for some reason I thought it was because remember, Earthquake, it was Earthquake and it was Typhoon. They played the same character. Just correct me if I'm wrong. It was Earthquake and Typhoon. I thought it was Typhoon that did that ran through the brick wall, but he did say Tugboat. But I wasn't too sure. Like I said, I got to go back. I got to go watch some of that stuff. A lot of that stuff, some of that stuff you can't even find or whatever. Come on, man, you gonna let me in? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so it was Tugboat. Okay, I would think for some reason I was thinking it was earthquake or typhoon, but I remember them. But yeah, man, and it was like now looking back on it, it was meant to be serious, but it was, it was comical or whatever. Um, but man, yeah, man, that was the '90s. Now, if I know everybody talks about like the NBA '90s and stuff like that, but the '90s in wrestling, that to me, that was the true golden era of wrestling, just in my opinion. Early '90s, you know what I'm saying? Like early '90s, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. I think the WWF was at its peak, as well as the WCW. There was a time being when I used to like, like Starcade, the Bash, American Bash. Uh, like I used to like WCW because it seemed a lot more real. You know what I'm saying? I remember when them guys were battling, like they WCW and WWF when they were going back and forth. I remember that, man. And then there was a time period where I really didn't want to watch neither one. I didn't want to watch WCW nor WWF. You know why? Because guess what came in there? I used to want to see ECW. I wanted to see what's his name flying up. I was like, man, well, man, fuck Macho Man Randy Savage or whatever. You know who I want to see? I want to see that motherfucker Rey Mysterio Jr. jumping off something higher onto like a guy who's on some like two or three tables and see him crash into that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I started liking ECW. Yeah, man. I used to like that. The Royal Rumbles were good. Ladder, the cage match. I absolutely like the ladder, the ladder matches, man. I used to like that, man, because it was, really a test of will and strength or whatever. But I still hate the fact that they didn't really want to push black wrestlers. They push them a little bit more now than they did back then. But Junkyard Dog, man, that was my guy. Of course, you gotta love R.I.P. To Tiny Zeus Lister. He had a short-lived career in wrestling or whatever, but I felt like they could have did a lot more for Zeus. But listen, we gotta be honest, man. And listen, man, I don't like what Hogan has done, how his outlook on everything, you know what I'm saying, him being racist and all that, you know. But I'll say this about Hulk Hogan, and I will say this about Vince McMahon. They looked out for Zeus, man, because then he got his stardom both in the WWF and as well as in acting too in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? Because then you started seeing Zeus everywhere. You saw him on Fresh Prince. You saw him in WWF. You saw him in No Holds Barred. You saw him, you know what I'm saying? Then eventually, you saw him in Friday. Saw him in he was making different cameo appearances and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So JMJ 21, what's going on, man? Man, I haven't seen you in a minute, bro. What's going on, man? That boy JMJ said he don't know nobody no more, man. It's all good, man. I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you coming through, showing love, man. We up in here talking about Sid Vicious right now. Sid Vicious, Sid Justice, Sid Steele, Psycho Sid, whatever you want to call him, man. That's still my guy, regardless of whatever. Now, I know y'all want to go ahead and y'all want to get to the y'all want to get to the bourgeois. I want to give a shout out to the brother Chilltown Hoops. If you're not sub to Chilltown Hoops, definitely go sub to Chilltown Hoops. He's a part of the panel with Player Choice. Shout out to them brothers over there at Player Choice, like what they doing. Um, Ticket had kind of put me on to Chilltown Hoops or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And I knew about them because of the panel on Players Choice and stuff like that, and it was something I kept watching. He's had his his epic debate battles. Like, I remember him and the brother Elder, going at it or whatever, debating or whatever. But shout out to Chilltown. He got his own channel, and he did a live yesterday. I posted in my community about the NBA 2K rating, but there was somebody that called in yesterday. There were two people that called in about Isaiah Thomas. One guy, felt the same way that I felt about Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas does not get enough credit for actually beating all three. He beat Magic, he beat Magic and Kareem, and he beat Bird, and of course he beat Michael Jordan. He doesn't get, nobody talks about that though, and nobody really talks about the fact that Michael Jordan actually lost. He could never beat Larry Bird. Okay. You say he's still a wrestling great, but fuck him. Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I feel the same way, bro. Like, I don't even look at hope. I am an American hero. Wait. I am a real American or some bullshit like that. I forgot. I forgot the fucking song, but man, whatever he used to come into. I, I am a real American. That's what it is. That song he used to come into, man. I used to actually like the little theme song to come into. But anyways, man, yeah, man, I feel what you're saying. But anyways, back to what Chilltown. Somebody called in talking about Isaiah Thomas. And then there was another guy that came in, and he was talking about the fact that, he liked Isaiah Thomas, he was great and everything, but he said Joe Dumars was better. Okay, and now I want people to understand that. I fucks with Joe Dumars. Okay, I fucks with Joe Dumars heavy. Anytime you have a guy that could give Jordan problems, okay, yeah, I'm gonna pay attention to that because he was one of the few guys that was able to give Jordan problems. Especially on the defensive end. But his argument about Joe Dumars being better was, of course, we know that Joe Dumars was able to get that. He got a Finals MVP and everything. And then also, he was also saying that Joe Dumars, when Isaiah was off or whatnot, more often than none, it would be Joe Dumars that would come through, right? And then also, we got to take the defensive, like the defensive, like all NBA, all NBA defense. I think it was all NBA defense. I think it was all NBA defense first or defensive team. I think it was like 5 times or something like that. I don't know the number. I think it was 5 times, and his. I think Isaiah had the edge on him in scoring, assists, and then of course the thing that this is the thing right here that I look at too. Okay, Isaiah Thomas got voted to 12 All-Star games, right? Of course, Isaiah Thomas was in the league, a little bit longer, but Joe Dumars only got the nod to 6 All-Star games. You said Ant-Man don't know about quadruple doubles and quadruple doubles, but Ant say they ain't skilled. Yeah, that's true. And I'm gonna get to Ant in just a minute. I'm gonna talk about Ant and I'm gonna talk about Victor Wembyama. But the reason why I got Isaiah Thomas ahead of Joe Dumars is because, for one, Isaiah Thomas could control the game uh, far better than what Joe Dumars was. Okay, and like I said, well, not far better, but he a little bit better than Joe Dumars was. Now, who is better defensively? Of course, it was Joe Dumars, and like I said, I am a defensive guy. However, um, to me, if we're talking about just who I had to choose as the leader of the backcourt, I'm going to go with Isaiah Thomas. It doesn't take anything away from Joe Dumars. It's just that Isaiah Thomas, man, was blessed with the gift of being able to set the table a lot better. Now, Joe Dumars was gifted about him is that Joe Dumars could play either one. He could play the point guard or he could play the shooting guard, and he didn't mind switching off because he was giving up size. He gave up like three 2 or 3 inches to MJ, who's 6'6". I think Joe Dumars is what, 6'4", 6'3", or 6'4", or something like that. Yeah, he was 12 All-Stars in 14 seasons. Joe Dumars had only made 6. And they were like, well, what is that? That's not a big deal. Well, in comparison, it actually is. If we're doing the comparison and you're talking about that Joe Dumars is better and stuff like that, because you got to have just as many, and he got half of that. Now I understand that he started playing a little bit later or whatever, and some of the things that Joe Dumars did, it doesn't get recognized or whatnot. But even from an offensive standpoint, this is the thing that we got to realize about Isaiah too. The reason why he's better. If Isaiah knew how to close a game, and so did Joe Dumars, but I think Joe Dumars did it better on the defensive end of closing game. That's not to say that Joe Dumars couldn't score. Joe Dumars could score. Yeah, he would. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He has the Finals MVP. It was in '89, if I'm not mistaken. He has the Finals MVP, and it's just like with James Worthy. There's a lot of guys that might not be the the star player, that what they'll get finals MVP. Now, here's the other thing, right? Now, I know hey, get to the point. Let me go ahead and lay the point on here. Now, this is what I want people to understand. And I'm going to ask a question, all right? Do you consider Joe Dumars a superstar? Yes or no? I have to know that. I have to know that. Do you consider Joe Dumars a superstar? I have to know that. And there's a reason why I'm asking that. So you consider him a superstar. I don't consider Joe Dumars a superstar. But if you look at Isaiah is already considered a superstar more so than Joe Dumars. Like they mentioned Isaiah first. You understand what I'm saying? Like they mentioned Isaiah first. You understand? Like they're not gonna mention Magic and Joe Dumars. You know what I'm saying? Even though Joe Dumars was he playing a different position and all that other stuff. But that's what I mean. Like he was seen as that bona fide leader. You know what I'm saying? Now when Isaiah left, you know what I'm saying? And another point that the brother had brought up, he brought up the point about what's his name? Joe Dumars eventually playing with Grant Hill. But let me ask y'all this too. Do you think that without Isaiah, the Pistons could have won? I mean, let's just be honest. If you take Isaiah off that team, would the Pistons still win? You took Adrian Dantley off the team, you were still able to win. You took Mark Aguirre off that team, you were still able to win. Now, Joe Dumars, that's questionable. That's really questionable, highly questionable. In my opinion, they're not winning without Joe Dumars because you needed somebody to put the clamps defensively on Jordan. So you see what I'm saying? If you take Zeke off of that team, automatically you're saying no. So there's no way in hell, absolutely not, that I'm gonna, because you don't really have a floor general as good as Isaiah Thomas. You don't. Magic had to actually work on his shooting. Isaiah didn't have to work on his shooting. He didn't have to work on his shooting. Was he a dynamic, 3-point shooter? Nah, because he wasn't taking them as much back then. That's not to say that if he was a player in his era, he probably could have, but he was more, back then the point guard position was played much differently. They weren't, okay, drive, then you get past the timeline and pull up from 30 and 40 like Steph Curry. It wasn't happening like that back then. Yeah, he was great two ways, but so was, and if you talk about defensively, yeah, I give you that. But Isaiah Thomas was just as great in a multitude of ways. Isaiah Thomas could find you. Isaiah Thomas could move without the ball. Isaiah Thomas could run in transition. Isaiah Thomas, I think people forget how he was able to climb off of a rebound and put that mug back in, and not on no finger roll, not slapping the backboard, actually grabbing the rim. I mean, Isaiah dunking. I mean, People forget how athletic Isaiah was. People forget, the ball handling that he possessed. You had like 2, 3 guys up in there, and he was up in there doing the little dribbling drills while the guys was up in there trying to rip him and stuff like that. Next thing you know, he find the guy. Okay, like I said, never mind all the, oh my God, the bad boy Pistons. They're throwing Jordan out of the air. Isaiah Thomas ain't never did that to Michael Jordan. Now, what's his name? What's it called? Is Isaiah Thomas being petty about a lot of shit? Yeah. Yeah, Isaiah Thomas, yeah, he could post you up. Joe Dumars could too, though. I give Joe, a lot of them played with their back to the basket. But Isaiah Thomas was more face up. He was more face up, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Magic Johnson was more of that backing you down and stuff like that. But I used to like when Magic used to face up and stuff like that. Sometimes I hate it, but they taught you how to do that. They taught you how to back your, it was a dribbling drill where you spin and you got your back, to the defender or whatever, to decrease their chances of getting to the ball or whatever. I used to hate that drill, but that's how you were taught to play the point guard back then. Yeah, he was only 5'11", borderline a superstar, a role player. But when Joe the Pistons in the 2004 chip, well, yeah, he did, but man, I don't know what he was thinking, man. I know he still beats himself up to this day, not getting mellow. You don't even know who the hell Darko is. Darko sounds like a cartoon character, like Finding Nemo or some bullshit. But nah, Joe Dumars is a star. You know what I'm saying? If you want to put him in, a role player, I mean, you can, but he doesn't do one specific thing. Like, okay, Dennis Rodman, yes, he's a role player, he's a star. Some people see Dennis Rodman as an icon. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a literally a rock star. You know what I'm saying? But he did one specific thing. Well, two specific things. Of course, it involved the defensive end. But his main thing, his calling card was rebounding. Joe Dumars could score. Joe Dumars could playmate. Joe Dumars could handle the rock. If needed to be, he could be, a facilitator. He could play that point guard role. He could play the combo guard. He was tall enough to play the shooting guard. Hell, he was even tall enough, to play the three. You got to remember, him and D Wade are the same height. There was times when D Wade has played the undersized three. Not all the time. I want people to sit up there and take things out of context, but I'm pretty sure D Wade has had to play, three, especially like in high school. Sometimes in Marquette and stuff like that. But more often than not, he's gonna be a combo guard. So to me, he's not just like a role player. If he was a role player, he'll be like a Patrick Beverly. Oh, he just one specific thing. That's all they do is play defense. Nah, Joe Dumars could shoot. Joe Dumars could drive to the basket. Joe Dumars would bang on your ass. Joe Dumars could handle the rock, find you. Joe Dumars, of course, we don't need to mention what he do defensively. But I still got Isaiah at the end of the day. I still got Isaiah. Some people don't like me because I got Isaiah as a starting point guard. And that's fine. Hey, You feel how you feel. He's right next to Jordan in the backcourt. If you really feel that way, that makes you feel so much better. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want to cry about all that? All right. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. I know everybody want to talk about Ant. I know JMJ was just mentioning Ant and everything. Now, shout out once again to the brother Chilltown Hoops. He had talked about Ant. I think that's what his topic was yesterday in regards to Ant and also the division between the old school and new school talking heads in terms of basketball. A lot of people, I was seeing in the comment section, a lot of people were talking about Ant was overrated. And then yesterday, there were some people that were saying that Victor Wembanyama is overrated. Neither one of those guys are overrated. Okay? Neither one of those guys are overrated. Do they have a lot to work on? Yes, they do. Ant has a lot to work on. So does Victor Wembanyama. They're young players. You got to understand. Victor Wembanyama ain't number 19 years old. I think he's like 19, maybe 20, something like that. I think he's 20 years old, 19, something like that. But he's young. He's under the age of 25. He's under the age of 25. So, both of them are. Victor Wembanyama. All right. Now, with Victor Wembanyama, and the reason why I'm talking about him first is because this is going to surprise a lot of people when I say this. I think Victor Wembanyama, his career, I could see Victor Wembanyama actually getting a few more championships than Anthony Edwards. And numbers wise, I can see him dominating, not so much scoring, but defensive wise, I can see him being a real problem juggernaut wise, because you have to understand that Victor Wembanyama led the league in blocks as a rookie. Like Ted mentioned yesterday, he was second in Defensive Player of the Year. This is only his rookie season. Okay? By the time he gets to year 3, year 4, and still hasn't reached his prime yet, I want you to understand, because now players are playing long now. You got, LeBron playing 20 plus seasons and stuff. You got some guys, like, if LeBron could play that long, then I could play that long. But then you got some players that, like, well, I don't plan on playing that long or whatever. I don't want to play no 20 plus seasons or whatever, which is fine. But if he happens to play that long, can you imagine where this guy is going to be at by year 8, by year 7 or year 8? What he's going to be doing. So that's what we have to put things into its proper context and really dissect that and really look at that to understand that you're looking at a guy that's not even fully developed, and by the time year 5 comes around, he just barely gonna be sniffing his prime. You gotta think about it. If he's 18, 19 years old, he'll only be 22. Usually the NBA prime you don't really start really getting to your peak until like 24, 25, 26 years old. Okay. Now I want to say this as a somebody had brought up another thing about before I get to Ant-Man. Somebody had brought something up about Jason Tatum and his shooting yesterday. Okay. Now I want to say this about Jason Tatum, man. Everybody got to stop looking at things so one-dimensional when it comes to a guy like Jason Tatum. You know what I'm saying? Because did he get the Finals MVP? No. Did he shoot all that great? No. But he still made a valuable contribution to winning a championship. And then you had a guy that came on there yesterday on Chilltown Hoops that was sitting there saying, oh, yeah, well, man, you're just going to have to shoot better and all this other stuff. Well, if we're going to go by that logic, okay, if we're going to go by that, Michael Jordan didn't play his best finals in 1996. He shot horrible. But guess what? They still ended up winning. And on top of that, he actually ended up getting an MVP. When everybody knew it should have went to Dennis Rodman. And I don't mean to keep bringing that up, but I have to bring that up again because what was Jason Tatum, the stuff that they was getting on him about, which was doing more than scoring, which is being a defensive player, which is facilitating, which is rebounding, which is making that extra, that hockey assist or whatever, y'all get mad at him or y'all criticize him for doing that. And on top of that, he was in the pluses. And actually did a great job. Whereas if he was sitting there forcing shots like he was doing the previous season, shooting a horrible percentage and stuff like that, but continuing to force the issue, guess what he would end up doing? He would shoot his team out of the game. So what you should do is give him props for using his intelligence to understand, okay, I can help the team win in another way. And that's what people aren't understanding. They're looking at, oh, he shot, 40 some, in the low 40s, or he, shot horrible or something like that. I'm not looking at it like that because there are going to be times when you don't shoot. And everybody wants to say that he like dominated on offense and stuff like that. Could Jason Tatum score? Yeah. But there are times when he would be very inconsistent. There would even be the times when he did score a lot where he didn't shoot a great percentage. And that's what people got to understand that. But I'm pleased with the way that Jason Tatum played. I'm probably in the minority of how people feel in reference to Jason Tatum playing. I'm pleased with the way that he played. But everybody wants to look at it. Oh yeah, they want him shooting, 50, 40, 90 and all this other stuff. It's not going to go that way all the time. It's just not. We got to be realistic. We got to realize that they were playing for something greater. Now, let me get to Ant-Man, right? Everybody's saying all this stuff about Ant-Man being overrated. Listen, I don't like what Ant-Man said any more than anybody else does, right? I don't like what Ant-Man said any more than what anybody else said. But we're not gonna. You said even the best have off days. It happened. What's up with it, Stephen Green? I see you up in here. You got up out of here the other, yesterday when we got to talking about. I think it was football that we were discussing, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but either way, you got up out of here. What's up with it, Marco? I see you in the building, man. Texas representing all today. But let's talk about Ant-Man, all right? I was talking about Sid Vicious. I was talking about Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas. I just got through talking about Wemby, about this whole notion or this perception that Wembyama is overrated. And I put Anthony Edwards in the same boat because there are a lot of comments saying how Anthony Edwards is overrated. Anthony Edwards is not overrated, okay? Look, I don't like what Anthony Edwards said, okay? Nobody does. And I also said that what Anthony Edwards is going to have to do, winning cures everything. If Anthony Edwards gets to the finals, it might possibly cure everything. But what people want to see is him hoisting that trophy. Okay, that Larry O'Brien, so to speak. But is Anthony Edwards overrated? Absolutely not. Hell no. Hell no. Anthony Edwards has improved every single season in terms of different things. Does he still have a long way to go? Absolutely. Okay. One of the things that he could get better in is his footwork. Still got to work on his footwork. In order for you to be compared to the greats like a Kobe, like a Jordan, even Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, any of these greats, they all had great footwork. You know what I'm saying? Footwork is the essence of a lot of sports. You got to have fast feet in football. You got to have incredible, crisp footwork. If you look at Kobe Bryant, a lot of people argue that Kobe Bryant had just as crisp of footwork than Michael Jordan. You know, that could be debated, though. But if you look at how to, Hakeem Olajuwon, how crisp their footwork was there, just like that, like just looked flawless when they moved and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't sloppy and stuff like that. Ant-Man has to work on that sort of thing. You got to develop something other than just a straight pull-up jumper. Because when that pull-up jumper is not going, okay, then you're going to disappear in the fourth quarter or something like that. You said Ant-Man a real deal. Listen, he made a mistake, but we can't exempt him from any type of smoke. I'm not going to exempt Ant-Man from any type of smoke. I'm not going to say, oh, man, he's just a baby or no shit like that. No, absolutely not. No, you made a huge mistake. Now you got to pay for it, and you got to make up for it. Okay? You're going to have to make up for it. And the way that you're going to make up for it is by you winning. Okay? Another thing that Anthony Edwards has to work on, I know some people are going to trip out when I say this, you're going to have to condition yourself to play a longer season. You were gassed by the time you faced Dallas. You were gassed. You ran out of gas. You ran out of gas toward the end of the season. Dennis Rodman, he trained like a marathon runner. Michael Jordan, they train like marathon runners. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Kobe Bryant was easily running 5 miles a day, man. Okay? You have to train. Ant was locked up by Derrick Jones' footwork. Did you see what Ant did in the playoff? He was taking KD off the dribble. Well, yeah, but the thing about it is I'm talking about every single play. They were no match for I'm talking about what you did in the first round, that's great. You swept them. That's great. You swept them. But what about when you get to the second round? What about when you get to the the semis, the conference semis? What about when you get to the conference finals? What about when you get to the finals? All that footwork and all that other stuff, sometimes it's not going to work. You got to be able, that's what KG was saying the other day, or yesterday. He said that, okay, you got to be strong and you got to be fast enough and you got to be smart enough to understand, okay, all that's not going to work. Dennis Rodman could easily shut down Ant-Man because he could jump. He probably won't jump nearly as high as Anthony Edwards, but he'll be able to jump with him. You got to realize, but he'll be able to keep up with the guy like Ant-Man. And the reason why I mentioned Dennis Rodman just now is because KG used Dennis Rodman as a reference. He said A lot of these guys have never ran into a 6'7", 6'8" Dennis Rodman that can move just as fast as you, that can run just as fast as you, that can jump just as high as you. Yeah, and you gotta watch your diet. That's another thing too. Yeah, that's gonna come into question too, because then you gotta start realizing your attrition and nutrition, because you don't want to eat some stuff that's gonna eventually get you injured, and then put weight on you and all this other jazz. That's what Zion is starting to realize now. But yes, we understand what he did. I mean, he swept KD like it was nothing or whatever. But you're like, I'll put to you like this, Stephen. You're only as good as your last game. You're only as good as your last series. Hell, people are so. Do you think people are talking about the championship that Jokic won? You only as good as your last championship. You think they're talking about the Boston series? You only as good as your last championship. They're not even celebrating the Boston championship. Now the hardcore Celtics fan, like my guy, True the King, or like the Sister Brown Sugar, you know what I'm saying? They gonna go ahead and they gonna celebrate the Boston Celtics hardcore and everything. But the mainstream media, man, they're not giving them no props. They'll sit up there and they'll try to put some sympathy on it, as if they need their props and everything. Like when Jason Tatum, unfortunately was sitting the bench and all that other stuff, then they'll mention, oh, well, he won a championship. That's the only time they mention it. But, if the Lakers win it, or LeBron win it, or this guy win it, or something like that, guess what? They're going to talk about it the whole damn season. They talked about the Lakers more than they talked about, the Boston Celtics. You think that Ant-Man is under pressure because Maya Moore retired her jersey with Minnesota Lynx straight? But, nah, man, He's under pressure because the expectations are going to be higher. A-Rod is not playing any games. And JMJ, I know you're a baseball man. A-Rod, man, just as well as I do, A-Rod is a fierce competitor. You know what I'm saying? You got to realize he's a champion. He knows championship. When A-Rod came to the Minnesota Timberwolves, he came to turn that organization around and has done so. A couple years ago, they made it to the playoffs. They got bounced out the first round. All right, that's all right. Made it to the playoffs, fell a little short. Okay. Then this year, guess what? They made it to the Western Conference Finals. That's 3 straight years they done made it to the finals, and they have progressed. They've gotten better every season. A-Rod is looking at championships. Okay, so to answer your question, he's under pressure just not for Maya Moore or anything like that, but he's under pressure for the Minnesota Timberwolves legacy, and for his legacy too as well, because now that you done said, okay, yeah, you done talked about the old school players, talking about it was only skilled player with Michael Jordan, stuff like that. Now you got to come out there and you got to prove to people, okay, I could win a championship too, and show that I am amongst the greats as being one of the skilled players. If you're going to make a big statement like that. But it don't have nothing to do, God bless Maya Moore, you know what I'm saying? Love what she did and everything like that. But WNBA and NBA, man, they on two different, unfortunately, they on two different levels, you know what I'm saying? Now, the WNBA is trying to catch up to the NBA in terms of, the bravado, in terms of, you know what I'm saying, the cachet and the popularity and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got the drama going on. You got the theatrics. You got Angel Reese and Shanity Carter, stuff like that going on. You got Angel Reese going at it with Kaylin Clark. You got, people on the talking heads getting in their feelings, like Shannon Sharp up in there crying over Kaylin Clark, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So now it's starting to gain its popularity and stuff like that. But to close the casting on this, man, listen, man, Ant-Man got a lot to learn. Will he win an NBA championship? I can foresee him winning an NBA championship. And I want to say this too, man. I heard this on Chilltown. Man, listen, man. Donovan Mitchell is not better than Anthony Edwards. Okay, let's just get that out. Donovan Mitchell is not better than Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell really, honestly, hadn't been as successful as Anthony Edwards. If we're talking numbers wise, probably yeah, from that perspective. But in terms of team wise, he hasn't been as successful as Anthony Edwards in his short tenure of his career. I'm talking about Anthony Edwards. So I don't have Donovan Mitchell ranked above. I don't have Spider Mitchell ranked above Anthony Edwards. And on top of that, Anthony Edwards, one thing man, he could talk all this shit about Anthony Edwards. You can say what he want. Anthony Edwards didn't make no excuse. He ain't talking about, oh yeah, my neck, my back, none of that other shit. Nah, he played. Okay. Now he got to build on that. And Anthony Edwards, man, you got to make up for what you did. All them receipts and stuff like that. You talking about you got receipts on other people, these commercials, you got receipts on Cam and Mace and stuff like that. Well, hey, all these old school players, they got receipts on your ass. So now you got to go ahead and you got to make sure that you, pay your dues. So with that being said, man, straight to the point, sports and entertainment, man. Make sure y'all like the video, share, subscribe, hit them notifications too. Till then, man, shouts out to the whole entire Lions Den, basketball, and boxing communities. I'll get at y'all later.